the Combat Mage. This is based on one of my D&D 5th edition characters. I like to play a particular multi-class on the tabletop, which is a Paladin Warlock multi-class. It's one of my favorite combinations. It's very strong, very capable, and it translates pretty well to Baldur's Gate 3. So if you're looking for somebody who can hold his own in melee, who can use magic and martial weapons in incredible capacity, and you want to also be the face of the party, you will have a good time following this build. Now, just a precursor before we go into the actual step-by-step leveling process, it is a template. The game is massive, as you might have noticed, and certain routes you will take, without being too spoilery, might give way to unique weapons and armors and accessories that might empower your character in a unique way, which may facilitate different build methods. So treat this as a template. I will go over some alternate options as we go along the leveling process, but other than that, just try to keep that in mind as you find your own unique items that may very well be different than my own, because I may not have entirely be holy, nor have I been entirely good. And I'll leave it at that. So let us respec right from the beginning. You can see my attributes right here. We have currently 22 charisma. I am using a halberd because I'm a halberd fanboy. Plus the high flat damage is really, really nice when I start getting additional hits in due to haste or bloodlust potions, or perhaps even certain other benefits that one might obtain throughout the game. But that's entirely up to you to find out and experience. Otherwise, you can also see that we have great weapon mastery. I don't use forearm mastery because I have a lot of additional extra bonus action powers, which are really, really potent. For example, this is a black hole that can suck everybody to the center, which allows me to group up people, and I have a massive mind cone that can stun people, which gives me advantage on getting hits in, which is really good with, of course, great weapon master. A lot of boons. So this is my build from scratch. We'll just go to Withers here, which is the experience boy, and we'll start from scratch. We'll go through it quickly, so pay attention, because otherwise this video turns out to be 30 minutes. We'll start off as Paladin 1. It's very important. Race, not so much. I would recommend Wood Elf of some variety, maybe a Tiefling. Oath of Vengeance is probably the best you can have. You can also maybe go with Oathbreaker. Does more potential damage after level 7 Paladin, but that's entirely up to you. In terms of attributes, I have decided to go with this. I don't need dex because I have heavy armor. I do like no penalties on my strength and intelligence, simply because it's a character that is also the face of the party, and annoyances of missing certain checks have gotten me to make sure that I don't have negative penalties here. But you could technically drop intelligence, maybe push your wisdom higher, which might be the way to go if you have a certain auntie that might give you something, but I'll let it up to you to decide what that means. I, however, missed auntie, so to speak, because I slapped her with my weapon and then she died. Anywho, choose your proficiencies, and then we go to the actual leveling process. As long as you make sure that you start off with Paladin 1, you are good to go. And we are a mostly charisma-focused class. That's how we're going to build. And the reason has to do with the level 3 Warlock. So let's get our Warlock classes out of the way first. Although if you do this from scratch, like literally a new run level 1, you probably want to start off as a pure Paladin, go to 5, get the extra attack, then switch to Warlock 3, and then maybe do an attribute respec once you get to Warlock 3 for the Pact weapon. Anyway, Eldritch Blast, mandatory. It's too good not to have. Friends is a really good cantrip as well. I thought Mage Hand was going to be awesome. It turns out to be more of a disappointment so far. Maybe I've missed the good uses of it, but a good rogue can do so much more, and I have a good rogue on my team. Subclass, I would recommend the Fiend. The temporary hit points on kills are phenomenal, but take your pick. It ultimately doesn't matter too much, but this makes you very, very tanky, and you are melee, and you are going to get a lot of kills. After all, we are a smite lock, if you will, a combat mage. Take spells, I would recommend highly Hex, which is essentially a better Hunter's Mark. It also works on your Eldritch Blast, not just weapon attacks like Hunter's Mark does. And it stays forever with you as long as you don't break concentration. It's a quality of life change that is not in the player's handbook if you play 5th edition, but is in this game and makes this so much more valuable. So definitely get Hex for if you for more damage. Hellish Rebuke, it's a nice reaction, nice burst damage, very powerful. Would recommend. But we are here for level 3 Warlock, so let's keep on trucking. Spells, pick your favorites. I like to also provide Arms of Hadar, or bring that with me as a result of the AoE, because Paladins, especially in this build in the early stages, does lack a little bit of AoE. But if you have a good blaster in your party, maybe a guild that's decked out, or maybe even a druid that has been empowered, you perhaps can forgo that and take other more useful single target shenanigans, like Arms of Agathis if you want to buff yourself prior to a fight. Agonizing Blast is a mandatory invocation. Other than that, I would recommend strongly Devil Sight. There are weapons that facilitate darkness, and otherwise the enemy might facilitate it against you. This prevents you and protects you from that. If you want to do more hassle-free beast talking, or talking to beast, you can do beast speech as well. It's very good for the role-playing. Repelling Blast is a good, fun invocation as well. Just make sure that if you do take this, you don't yeet the bosses off a ledge and insta-kill them, because you won't be able to loot them. I found out the hard way, which is why I spec'd out of it myself and just stuck to the trusty Devil Sight. It also makes it so that you have improved dark vision, basically, which might help with characters that don't have that, races that don't have that. Now, in terms of if you want to replace spells, you can do that. We go to level 4 Warlock. Sorry, level 3 Warlock. We are level 4. We picked up Pack of the Blade. This is why we are able to use Charisma for our melee weapon. So this is mandatory. You can't argue about this. It's too good. Pick up a favorite spell. I like Mirror Image for tankiness. I like Misty Step if I don't get it for my Paladin. So if you want to be an Oathbreaker, maybe take Misty Step right here. But if you want to be Vengeance, you get it from Oathbreaker. So maybe pick up Mirror Image, or perhaps pick up a Cloud of Daggers. It's entirely up to you. I like to get a little bit of AoE in, especially since I have the ability to suck people in with my Illithid powers. But maybe you want to stay pure, and you don't have the dark hole. So maybe you can choose a different spell. Mirror Image is very, very good. Cantrips, pick your favorite. Maybe some Mage Hand, maybe some Blade Ward. Ultimately up to you. Spells, same thing. Pick whatever you think is most useful. Mirror Image in this case for me, over Armor of Agathis. Change your spells if you need to, and we pick up an ability improvement to round out our Constitution to 16 for a +3. We are melee after all, we want to have some healthy body. And then we throw in a Charisma to get +18. Very, very good. Now, here we go. Now we're level 6. We could go level 5 right here. This is what I did when I originally leveled this character. I just went 5 Warlock and then respec later, because Deepened Pact at level 5 Warlock also gives you extra attack. But I didn't need it. Or at least we don't need it right now, because we are just respecing the build. But if you are playing it through, then yes, you want to take 5 right here and then respec later. But we are not doing that. What we are doing instead are going back to Paladin, because that allows us to pick up our Divine Smite, as well as a fighting style. Great weapon fighting. Very, very good. You could also technically start as a level 2 Paladin and then go into Warlock 5, because then you have your Smite, you do have your great weapon fighting. It is very, very potent. The path is up to you, although I would recommend waiting until a little later before you respec in, or try to play this build by respecing into it like we are doing right now. Yeah, level 2 Paladin. Choose your favorite spells and go from there. There's no real spells that you really need to take. I do recommend Bless and Cure Wounds, just in case. They are quite potent. Always nice to have those. And then we have level 3. Now, since we are Oath of Vengeance, we do get access to Hunter's Mark, but we already have Hex. Hex is a better version. Bane, Now we have Bless. I prefer Bless anyway if I do want to run a concentration spell, but our Hex is concentration as well, so I prefer to use that. Abjure Enemy is nice, but does not hold a candle to Vow of Enmity, especially against bosses. Now we are going to be using Great Weapon Mastery, so getting advantage on every single attack roll. We take a -5 to hit, of course, helps offset one another phenomenally. So this is an incredible tool. If you go Oath of Vengeance, we get Divine Health, which is just comfy. Take your favorite spells, go from there. Just a thing that you may want to consider doing as well while you are leveling is make sure after each level you go back to your hotbar, because as you can see, it's becoming a bit of a mess. So you may want to just realize which spells you might end up using, which tools may end up on your board. And then you can kind of realize, oh, let's see. Those are part of certain events in the game. Compelled Duel I don't really use. Divine Favor I don't use. Bless I might use. Arms of Adar I might use. Mirror Image I might use. Cure Wounds is nice to have available. Command, don't use Bane. Don't use Thunderous Smite because I have a regular Smite. Hunter's Mark is useless in the eyes of Hex. Unless they're immune to necrotic damage, fair enough. Cloud of Daggers for a little bit of AoE. We got our Paladin skills right here. Inquisitor's Might, Packed Weapon for the Warlock, Lay on Hands as well, which also facilitates the removal of poison and diseases, in case that is relatively necessary. And then you can just kind of clean that up. Otherwise, it does become a bit of a mess. So be wary of that. So, we do have Paladin 4, Warlock 4 right now. We're going to keep pushing that Paladin. At this point, you have to make a decision. Are you going to have a lot of bonus actions? Now, I do because I have the Illithid powers. If I wasn't deep into the Illithid powers right now, I would take either Great Weapon Master or I would take Polearm Master. Polearm Master is really, really good if you have a polearm, because it allows you to, every single time you make an attack, to also get a free bonus action attack as well. Trying to see where Polearm Master is. There it is, right there. You get access to Polearm Mastery plus the ability to make reactions as they approach you, which is particularly good as well. Especially if you have tools on your weapons that apply debuffs, like a poison chance or maybe a bane on hit. So then when they try to reach you, you attack them, you hit them, you debuff them, and then they try to hurt you and they fail because they are already debuffed as they approach you. It's very potent. But I am Illithid. I am a half Illithid at this point in the game. And as such, I desire Great Weapon Master for sure. This is mandatory, this feat, no matter what you do. If you are a two-hander melee carrying baddie, Great Weapon Master is mandatory. It's so much damage, and the occasional crit or kill will give you also another hit for free as a bonus action. The Great Weapon Master is mandatory. Be conscientious of that. So we take that. We go to Paladin 5, as you can see. We're now level 9. This is where I said the character build really comes online. Well, technically, it is Paladin 6, Warlock 3, which is level 9, where it really starts to pop off because you become immune to the world. But I suppose this is also really nice because you get the extra attack, and you have the feat from the Warlock 4 already. There's a couple of interesting spells here. You also get the Oath, Misty Step, and Hold Person, which might be useful. But the reason why some of these spells here is nice, because not only is protection from poison a really good buff to have, it stays forever. There's no concentration, just long rest. So it just grants you a bunch of resistances against poison damage and advantage on saving throws against being poisoned. And being poisoned is a very unfortunate thing, and there's a lot of enemies that poison, there's traps that poison. It's very frustrating. So it's nice to have that available to you. On top of that, I also think it's very good to have lesser restoration, as well as maybe some 8. Otherwise, just take the spells you want and go from there. Because we have our extra attack. We then go to Paladin 6, which gives us the power that we were looking for. Aura of Protection. This gives us bonus to all saving throws, every single one of them, including Charisma, based on our Charisma, which is incredibly, incredibly strong. Which is why the minimal requirement for this build is Paladin 6, Warlock 3. So, once again, keep an eye out on your spells. Pick the ones you want. And here you can kind of choose what you want to do. Normally I would go Warlock. I would go Paladin 6, Warlock 3, then I would go to Warlock 4, but I already have Warlock 4. So we have, as you can see, a few more levels left, 2 to be exact. So you could go for a fighter for action search right now. You could do that. Or you can go for Paladin 8, which is what I would recommend, just to round it off nicely. Paladin 7 gives you Relentless Avenger, which might be nice. If you're Oathbreaker, you get +2 permanent necrotic damage to every hit you do through your Hateful Aura or something like that. I'm not sure what it's called. But this is really nice if you're a Paladin. And if you have the Polearm Mastery, this might also come in quite handy if you want to pursue someone. Once again, keep an eye on your spells, but nothing really has changed here. And then the final level, level 8, new feat available, which is what we want. So normally you can choose either Polearm Mastery here, if you don't have a lot of bonus action offensively, but we do. So we're going to go for the ability improvement, push this to 20, which gives us a total of 22 charisma because of our special magic item we found in Act 3, which also gives us more plus damage, a better chance to hit, which will help facilitate offsetting the Great Weapon Master. And you end up just a powerhouse of a machine that also protects himself and his allies through the aura better. And spellcasting also gets buffed to this because it's also your spellcasting modifier. It is delightful. So, and there you, that's it. It's fairly straightforward. Now, there are ways to optimize it. I've seen people take 3 levels of Rogue. I've seen people take 2 levels of Fighter. Entirely based on just getting these large, incredible burst windows that burn down bosses. It's entirely up to you. I find this to be the most well-rounded way to do it. No boss has really given me grief yet. I am super tanky. I can facilitate my team, help my team. I am basically a one-man army if need be. And I have AoE, I've got single target, I've got sustain. I've got everything I need. I'm everything. I'm the main character. And also, not to forget, you can have buffs from allies like Shadow here. Get some Long Strider, which allows you to facilitate things like permanent movement speed buff. And there's no concentration on it. It's a ritual cast with no concentration. Now, there's a lot of good items here. There you go. As you can see, we now have permanent Blade Ward. We have resistance as well. We can see invisibility. We have the Long Strider from the buff, freedom of movement, so we can't really stop. We have a lot of flat damage on our Halberd, which is also why I don't feel too bad not using an axe or something, because I haven't really found a really good flat damage axe, but this Halberd is incredible. Birthright allows us to go to 22, which is incredible. We have a shield spell. Normally, you would like to have a Hex Blade, of course, in Path of Exile, or not Path of Exile, Dungeons and Dragons, 5th edition. Because you get the shield and you are in the fray, and then you have +5 AC, which is incredible. The advantage on wisdom saving throws makes it so, in combination with our aura, as well as the positive wisdom, that things like hold person are not going to hold us down. We are very nigh impossible to stop. Very difficult to kill. We have a bunch of flat damage. We also have Ring of Arcane Synergy. When we use Eldritch Blast, for example, and we do damage, we can get our spellcasting ability modifier to our weapon attacks. It's very, very fun. So we can engage with some range attacks. They run at us, we run at them, and then they just get one shot, and it's delightful. So, and that's just with the gear that I found. I know there's even better gear out there that I missed, or because I accidentally yeeted somebody off with the repelling blast that I talked about, but it's entirely up to you. As long as you have Paladin 6 and Warlock 3, you can kind of figure it out as you go along, especially your attributes can be adjusted based on the gear you found and go from there, right? But hopefully this gives you a good idea on how to make an absolutely broken powerhouse that does devastating damage, is impossible to kill, has incredible utility, and can also actually carry the team based on the dialogue options, and has a lot of tool to control the combat as well, with crazy things like, you know, the illicit powers, or maybe you want to fly around because jumping is beneath you. It's incredible. There's nothing this character can do, and I'm really, really happy with it. I can even turn into a Displacer Beast, by the way, in case you want to feel like a druid. So yeah, but that's something anybody can do. That has to do with the illithid powers, which anybody can do. But of course, if you are in the fray, you get an extra 85 hit points, because when your displacer beast form dies, you go back to your original hit points of your character that you had prior going into the shape. So you essentially are a moon druid with an incredible form on top of that. And you are melee. So that's wonderful. Anyway, go forth, enjoy the combat mage, and hopefully I can make some other builds. My Shadow Moon is a triple my Shadow Heart, I mean, not my Shadow Moon. My Shadow Heart is a triple multi-class. I've got 2 other multi-classes there as well that I'm still trying out. I'm actually thinking about making a quad multi-class for some particular combo, but we'll figure it out. Let me know what you want to see, and maybe I can put it together. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Have a good time. Take care, and I am out.